If you missed the Age of Sorcery Chapter 3 livestream, there's a lot of things coming in this update, and there isn't too long to wait until we get our hands on it. There's a lot to cover here, so let's not waste any time, and we'll get right into things with the main gameplay features. The first new addition is a revamp of the journey system. Aiming to add a little more structure, it's designed to be more user-friendly, helping to teach new players the basics at first, and then offering a little more structure and objective-based gameplay for those that wish to engage with it. Journeys now take the form of quest-like subsets designed as professions, and each completed journey offers a new reward. These rewards range from basic resource packs to brand new weapons and armours, including an epic version of Valeria's sword. Each reward can be claimed once per character, and the system is designed to allow you to choose a path a bit better without being left in the dark, looking like it'll bridge the gap between Conan's more RPG nature and the sandbox style of the survival genre. Quests are always popular on modded servers, so I'm sure this feature will be quite well received. The early journeys seem quite simple, designed to be a sort of tutorial and introduction to the game and its mechanics. Later journeys apparently hold your hand much less, and whilst I can't yet confirm what they'll ask you to do, it seems the rewards follow suit with the intended difficulty level. Apparently the experience is fairly linear, in that you'll have to complete one journey to then move on to the next one. From what was said, I don't think this in any way restricts you from unlocking certain feats or anything like that. I think it's more just sort of like almost a quest to follow along with, and then you get a reward at the end. I'm sure some of you will be wondering what happens to your current journey steps. Dennis said they'll be reset, and some select challenges, like for example leaving the starting area, will be retroactively completed. It seems the majority of journey steps will remain incomplete though, so if you want to engage with the new system, you'll have to follow the steps to complete your journeys. This is so that everyone has the opportunity to earn the new rewards, and they're encouraged to try out this new system. Some journeys are a little bit different depending on whether you're playing on the Exiled Lands or the Isle of Siptar, and of course that will be more based on locations you have to visit and activities you have to do on that map. Additionally, Dennis mentioned that a developer named Rob worked on this system. This was in reference to a question about if the system can be modded, and whilst Dennis couldn't 100% confirm, he said that Rob is very passionate about mods, and he believes the system will be able to be modded based on who developed it. If you don't really find that much enjoyment from more subjective goals like building, or if you just prefer to have a set list of goals to achieve, then this update will offer you a nice linear experience, and it should help new players to wade through the complexity that Conan sometimes suffers from. Overall, this seems like a great new addition. Next up is the Golem system. Golems are a new craftable follower taking a humanoid form made from 6 parts: 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso and a head. All of these items will have different variants and different attributes. This system introduces 2 new workbenches, the first being the Golem workbench, in which you will craft certain parts of the Golem. You then take those crafted parts over to the Guardian assembly station. On that bench you'll be able to see the stats of the Golem you're crafting in the station, and then you can assemble it with a ritual. Amongst those stats you'll see that Golems have inventory space, which is important as they can harvest resources for you when you're out in the world. They can wield different tools, allowing them to harvest different resources like wood, sticks, stone, corpses, etc. They'll then passively gather items whilst following you, which is a really interesting way to improve how utilitarian sorcery is. There are multiple tiers of golems with increased health, armour and inventory space depending on the components they're made from, which can indeed be mixed and matched. It seems there are 3 tiers of golems consisting of stone, iron and sort of what look like an Acheronian plate. They are able to harvest resources, assist you in combat, apply AoE buffs, light up dark areas and even more. They are extremely useful. They have a ton of health and armour too, which kind of makes them sound broken. However, there is some preemptive balancing here to even them out. The major one is that golems cannot be healed. Any damage they take is permanent, and eventually from taking too much damage, they'll die. You don't get any of the golem pieces back, they just drop whatever was in their inventory at the time of death. To stop them getting absolutely stomped, they do have a deflect mechanic, similar to how weapon attacks deflect off shields, and healing items can be used to improve the deflect. However, it seems deflect will never be 100% effective, and again, any damage dealt to the golems is permanent. They also can't level up, so their power level remains pretty much static. Of course their main feature is harvesting. Currently they can only harvest items whilst following you. They should be able to autonomously harvest in the future, and the functionality of this harvesting is apparently going to be pushed to thralls in the future too. Golems are classed as followers, they take up another slot in your follower limit just as a regular human thrall would, and therefore they also benefit from speccing into authority. Golem skins will be available in the Battle Pass and the Bazaar, both in Chapter 3 and into the future, and you'll also be able to get different golem pieces from a vendor at Kamoses' Spire, which we'll talk about shortly. When people were predicting that golems would be used to autonomously gather resources, I was somewhat skeptical, but I could see it being a possibility. It's now confirmed, and honestly, I think this is going to be quite well received. I'm not sure how it will affect the PvP landscape, but I think PvE should see a large benefit from this, and it will surely help out solo players that don't have the benefit of having other teammates to help them harvest resources. Looking at the teasers over the past week or so that I've covered on my channel, we saw a lot of red stones. Many people had many different theories, but they're now confirmed to be blood crystals. These crystals are formed from the blood of the Giant Kings that soaked the ground. The Giant Kings wielded incredible sorcerous power, and anything that comes into contact with the crystal is granted life. Blood crystals can be found using the Detect Resources spell. They're shown in red underneath the ground, and it seems pretty random in how you'll find them. You of course need a pickaxe to excavate these stones, but they'll be guarded by an enemy that needs to be defeated and harvested for the crystals. There seems to be 3 guardians, a small rock nose, a large rock nose, and an animated earth golem. It seems the blood crystals that possess these enemies are used in the golem crafting process, but it wasn't 100% clear on stream, so that's on the list of things to test in the public beta client. You can then bring the blood crystals back to Mech at his spire. Kamoses' spire in the northern desert has been updated, now more stronghold-like, with a gargantuan beam erupting from within. Aside from this area now being more fitting for the story, NPCs will now finally wear their canon armour from the Bazaar, so that previous technical hurdle is resolved. Mech himself has some new dialogue too, which essentially tells you to find the fancy red rocks and he'll reward you if you bring them to him. There's also some vendors at the Spire offering similar rewards to headhunting and some other NPCs to give you some lore information. Dennis said that the vendors at Kamoses' Spire sell very similar items to the headhunter mechanic, so it seems like we'll still be able to acquire both the Mad Prophet armour set, and of course the legendary weapons and gear and thralls that came with Headhunter. However, that being said, the Conan Exiles caravans will be removed when Chapter 3 hits. Additionally, Kamoses is apparently planning a ritual, though he knows of another ritual taking place elsewhere. You can enter the realm of this ritual through a teleporter in the Spire, which leads to a new area for you to explore. There are certain things in this realm that you can take back to Mech, but Dennis didn't want to spoil the surprise of where we're going or what we're doing, so we'll have to wait to see that. This is the narrative conclusion for the Age of Sorcery, so it'll be something large hopefully. Narrative things like Mech's Spire are of course only accessible on the Exile lands, as he doesn't exist in Siptar. I can see this being kind of a controversial thing, as the main canon story can't be progressed on one of the maps. However, on the flip side, Siptar does have its own self-contained story that doesn't interact too much with what's going on in the Exiled lands, so I'm not against the idea. That being said, I'm not too sure how the blood crystal mechanic will play out on the Isle of Siptar, but I'll try my best to test that out when it hits the public beta client. Overall, blood crystals seem an interesting new addition that feels like the foundation for a deep expansion to the lore, and with the whole story going on with Kamoses, this could honestly be a really satisfying ending to the Age of Sorcery. Again, Dennis did not spoil the story details, so we'll have to wait until it hits the public beta client, but I'm very excited to see how the final battle for Sorcerous Supremacy plays out. The final teaser we saw posted on Twitter showcased an imposing eclipse hanging over the Exiled lands. As many of us predicted, it's an omen of what's to come. Over the course of the Age of Sorcery Chapter 3, nighttime in the Exiled lands won't exist as we expect. Instead, the moon will eclipse the sun, casting a blood-red light across the land. I said quite a long time ago that I'd love to see world events affecting the map, and whilst this isn't a change in topography or layout, it really sets the mood for the story events, and it'll be a sight to behold on that first night of Chapter 3. Of course, with the new age comes new additions to the Battle Pass and Bazaar. They briefly showcase the Battle Pass and what's in it. There is, of course, the expected Crom coins, decal paints, potion pots, etc., but there's also some new weapons and armour sets. That includes the Turanian Nomad set, new storage containers, a camel, cosmetic skins for some workbenches, the scaffolding building pieces, golem skins and more. They've also finally implemented working previews for emotes and such to help improve clarity. Once the update is live, I'll of course be showcasing everything that's in the Battle Pass in a dedicated video. One of the fan favourite additions to the Battle Pass will be the armour display stands, which are on the free track at tier 3. Items like this have existed in the Fashionist mod for a while, but I've been dying for this to be added to the base game, and a lot of people are probably really happy to hear that it's coming to the base game for free. We didn't get to see too much at the Black Lotus Bazaar, as it seemed certain things weren't 100% finished, but we did see a few items. This included at least 2 new bundles, the Disciples of Zar and Setite Cultist sets. The Bazaar also includes a new building set in the Turanian expansion. This includes archways, large domes, curved and rounded pieces, new staircases, etc. There's undoubtedly more included in the set, and as an expansion to a DLC building set, I'm not too sure how people will react to it. It does look like something that would actually encourage me to use the Turanian set a bit more often, but its perceived value will of course depend on if you own the Turanian DLC and how much you like the visual style. I think the expansion of the Stormglass set was a really good offering. Stormglass Cathedral is probably my favourite building set in the game. However, that being said, I do want to see some new and fresh building sets, not just expansions to DLCs or base game sets. I'm still holding out hope that we'll at some point get a Lemurian building set or an Acheronian one, so hopefully this pattern of expanding on DLC and base game building sets isn't something they're sticking with, and it's just kind of coincidence that we've had 1 and 2 back to back. There was no word on any planned adjustments or improvements to the Bazaar, its layout or pricing. There's also no word on if there will be an increased XP event for the Battle Pass as there was in the run-up to Chapter 2. The stream was quite tight on time and ran a lot shorter than it usually did, so there wasn't much time for a Q&A segment, so hopefully these questions will be clarified before the full release. Speaking of the Q&A segment, there were a couple of brief questions that were covered towards the end of the stream, so I'll quickly run through those. They're still working out issues with the character transfer system, although they didn't say what the issues were. It is actively being worked on, but there's no ETA for when that mechanic will return. Not much was mentioned about bug fixes in the stream as they focused on the biggest additions, but apparently the Chapter 3 update will come with a bunch of bug fixes and optimizations, including an adjustment to climbing. Finally, in response to a question, Dennis stated that Conan Exiles will not be upgraded to a higher version of Unreal Engine. This has been covered before, but basically all the custom code and the back-end workings of the game make an upgrade incredibly complicated, and thus would take up an incredible amount of dev time, making it unfeasible. It seems like it'd kind of be a choice between upgrading the engine and getting no content for the best part of a year, maybe more, or getting content and remaining on the engine, which admittedly does have some issues, but I know I'd rather get the content. I also don't think that upgrading Conan to Unreal Engine 5 or whatever it's currently on is the magic bullet fix that people kind of hope it's going to be. Given I don't really know anything about game development, but it seems a bit more complicated than that. So, finally, the release date. When does the Age of Sorcery Chapter 3 update come out? Well, the public beta of Chapter 3 comes out tomorrow, Thursday the 23rd of February. The release for live servers on both PC and consoles is currently slated for March 14th. That's hopefully a solid date, though of course if any massive issues are found in the beta, it may get delayed slightly. That hasn't happened yet through Chapter 1 and 2, so hopefully the date of March 14th sticks. Overall, this was a pretty good stream. The revamp of the journey system should help new and returning players, whilst also offering some value to experienced players seeking something a bit different from dungeon crawling and building. The introduction of golems also covers a lot of bases that I've seen people talk about for quite a while, so I think that will be very well received. Personally, I would have loved to have heard more about the lore and the story progression, as, to be honest, the story of the Age of Sorcery has really grabbed me, especially in the run-up to Chapter 3. Dennis did not divulge any spoilers, and though I am impatient, I can respect that. Being able to experience it firsthand in the public beta tomorrow is going to be an experience. Hopefully it matches up to the quality of the storytelling so far. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about the stuff coming in Chapter 3, and of course I'll be diving into golems, the journey system, the bazaar, the battle pass and the lore of Chapter 3 in the coming weeks. If you enjoyed that video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. As always, if you have suggestions for future content you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to become a member of the Coffee Cult by joining our Discord, and if you'd like to support the channel further, become an esteemed Coffee Cultist by joining us over on Patreon. On that note, a massive thanks to all of our esteemed Coffee Cultists on screen now for continuing to support the channel. Again, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.